evening. I'm State Representative Jim Marshall. I'd like to welcome all those that could attend this evening in person and those that are going to view online. I'd like to thank Lincoln Park Performing Arts Center for the venue tonight, and I'd like to thank the Attorney General's office, and specifically Philip Little, who's here this evening to to conduct this information on cyberbullying. And please take it away.
All right. Good evening, everyone. How are we? Good, good, good. My name is Philip Little, and I'm the Education and Outreach Specialist with the Pennsylvania Office of Attorney General. And on behalf of the office and our Attorney General, Kathleen Kane, thank you so much for coming out here tonight. So what we're going to do here is, our goal is to give you a foundational education on the social medias that our children use today. You're going to hear me relate things to cyberbullying and child predators, okay? But we all understand as adults what child predators are, but let's tackle what cyberbullying is, because sometimes we don't understand as adults what cyberbullying is, because it really didn't exist when we were kids. So, when we look at regular bullying, we understand that it was physical face-to-face, right? I used to think of it as the meet me at 3 o'clock at the flagpole, right? That kind of bullying. And when that was going on, we knew who the bully was because we could physically see him. And if we were being bullied, we could run away and escape from school or wherever it was taking place. But with cyberbullying and because of social media, there is no escape. Because everything's on the computer and it's available to you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, there's no escape. You can't run away. And it's really damaging to the psychology of the kid or the child, and it's really an issue that we're seeing in schools today. Also, what we see is, you knew who the bully was with bullying. Cyberbullying, a lot of people post anonymously, and you have no idea who's verbally attacking you online. So it really is an issue that we need to understand, that it is really different than the traditional bullying sense. The first thing I want to ask you is, probably your children have many social media accounts. Usually no one has just one, but several. And I want to ask you, do you know your child's passwords? Do you know your child's passwords to your social media accounts? And the reason I ask this question is, if you do not know your child's passwords, and we as law enforcement had to go into your child's social media as a lead to find them if they went missing, this isn't like the Law & Order TV shows where we cut the commercial and the next thing you know, we're in your child's computer. In reality, best case scenario, it can take at least 48 hours until we go through the correct legal channels and we have access to get into your child's computer. And if anyone knows anything about missing persons cases, the first 48 hours are the most critical in getting our loved ones and our children back. So that's why I ask you, do you know your child's password? If you don't or haven't thought about it, create some sort of a contract with your child, having them give you the passwords, having them readily available on the fridge, wherever it's at, so that you have a list. If anything were to happen, you're able to get into those social medias. Now today's presentation is, we're going to take a look at the top 6 social medias that are out there that seem to be the hottest that our children use. Again, you're always going to hear me talk about in terms of cyberbullying and child predators. But the idea here is that you're going to have foundational education by seeing physically what these sites look like. We're going to talk about some statistics on them. We're going to talk about some of the vocabulary or buzzwords that are associated with these social media sites. And lastly, we're going to go ahead and take a look at where the settings are on these sites and figure out how we can put these settings on to keep our children more safe when they're online. So the first social media site I want to take you to is Snapchat. And right here, as you can see, this is what the logo we see for Snapchat is. Snapchat is a phone-based application, okay? And simply, what we talked about, Snapchat is a phone and video sharing based application with a twist, okay? The media that you send out, the pictures, or we call snaps, delete, self-delete. So if I were to take a picture and sent it to Representative Marshall if he had Snapchat. The picture that I sent to him would delete off of his phone after 1 to 10 seconds. I like to think of it as the Mission Impossible application. This message will self-destruct after so many seconds, right? Think of it like that. And that's what we see. Kids like it because it has that quirky feature that they like to send multiple snaps throughout the day. To give you some statistics on Snapchat here, we see there's about 70 million users as of April. Okay, it may not seem like a lot, but it's really growing in numbers. And it gains about 10 million users each month. So you can see that this is a relatively new application, but it is growing in leaps and bounds. Children really like it. To give you a little vocabulary on the Snapchat world, snaps, when you hear someone say, I'm sending a snap, that simply means photos. Yes, ma'am?
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
When you say that the photo disappears 10 seconds after you send it, if my child is not looking at their phone, do they not see that Snapchat, or does it wait until they log into Snapchat and then they see it for the 10 seconds and it disappears?
After you go in and log in, you can see it, then it disappears.
So it
Right.
does wait for that user, the end user. It's not like it's sent out and disappears if you're not readily on.
Correct, correct. Now, we as adults probably get that nothing online ever goes away, right? Nothing ever does. But children are led to believe because Snapchat says it deletes, because its icon is a ghost, they disappear, they think nothing of it. They think that everything does delete and goes away. But in reality, everything out there has a digital footprint. You can find it, okay? And children are using this in terms of taking any inappropriate photos of one another and sending them out and thinking that they delete. And people sometimes, they call screen capture them. So if you have a phone and you push your home button and the talk button on there, it'll now take a picture or whatever was on that screen. And sometimes children send these out to others and try to bully them, cyberbullying, which is a form of it, to embarrass them and bring shame to them. So we really need to understand that this can be abused. So let's go ahead and take a look at how an account's created. And when we open up the phone, and this is basically with an iPhone here, you can see we're at the App Store. Are we all familiar with what an App Store is when we go on our phones? Okay, so I can use that verbiage. And we'd simply just install the app. And once we do that, we're asked to register with 3 criteria. 1, being our email address. 2, being creating a password. And 3, asking for our birth date. Now keep in mind that the birth date, because we're going to come back and talk about how old you need to be to use social medias. But nonetheless, you fill out those 3 criteria. And then next, you're asked to give a unique username that describes you and you alone. So only you have this username on Snapchat. Once we go ahead and fill out that information, we're redirected here. Because I did say that Snapchat is a phone-based application, it needs to know what phone number it's going to. So this is where we enter our phone number. So once we understand how the account's set up, let's take a look at how we manage our settings. And once we open up the application, this is what the blank wall on Snapchat looks like. And let's take a look at where we go to find the settings on Snapchat. We simply click right there where the red arrow is near the gear. You're going to notice that that's pretty much the universal sign for all settings on different social medias is that gear. So as a parent, if your child has one of these social medias I may have not talked about, look for that gear somewhere on the screen. That's usually a good indication that's where you can find the settings at. But when we click on that gear right there, we're redirected to this screen right here. It opens up our settings. And I want to emphasize this part right here. Who can send my snaps? Remember, I said that snaps are pictures, right? That's the verbiage, that's the buzzword we use when we associate pictures and snaps with Snapchat. And when we open that up, we're redirected here. We now have the ability to limit who can send us snaps. Can everyone in Snapchat universe send us snaps? Or only my friends? And my friends is similar to Facebook. You find people to follow and they're your friends. So now we're limiting who can send us photos online. And we as adults know that not everyone needs to be able to contact our children. So if we select that, we're now minimizing the amount of people that can contact our children through Snapchat. The next the next setting I want to talk about is the who can view my stories. This is the latest and greatest from Snapchat. What it does is, because children don't just take one snap or picture a day, they take multiple. And what it does is Snapchat compiles all those pictures that are taken in one day, and it kind of creates a collage of what that person does on a day-to-day basis for that day. Okay, when we think about this in terms of child predators, if someone was on our child's account and we saw their stories on there and we figured out they're here at this time, they're here at this time, and they're here at this time, we can now geographically locate, if they're constantly going to the same places, where they're at. So we don't want everyone to see where our children are at all times. Not everyone should be able to see this information. So let's go ahead and take a look at how we can limit that. Again, can everyone view your child's stories? Can it just be my friends? And now we have this third option here is custom. And when we click on custom, we're now redirected to this screen. What this is that it takes all the list of your friends and you select the people that you want to view your stories. So now you're minimizing it even more, making it more exclusive. You're not just your friends can see it, but the people you select off your friends list can see your stories on Snapchat. What I want to talk about here real quickly is Snap Kids. Remember how I talked about that you need to have entered your birthday at the beginning for Snapchat? Well, with all social media, I shouldn't say all, but generally speaking, you need to be 13 years or older to have an account. And when you create an account, it asks for your birthday. Okay? With Snapchat, they do the same thing, but they do something very unique. Usually, if you're not 13 years or old, they won't let you have it. But when you enter in your information here, and you put in a birth date less than 13 years old, you're redirected to Snap Kids. And what simply Snap Kids is, it's for users 13 and under, and you cannot send or receive those snaps I talked about. It simply looks like you have the application on your phone. It has the same features. It looks the same. But think about it in terms of, I like to call it a Barbie cell phone. Say you're a mom. I'm going to pick you in the front row. Hope you don't mind me picking on you. Say you have a daughter, which I'm guessing you do, and you have a cell phone, right? And you have a young daughter, and she says, I want a cell phone, Mom. And you know she can't have one yet, but she wants one because Mom has one, right? You may go out and buy her a toy cell phone or a Barbie cell phone, right? It may make noise, you can push the buttons, it may ring and do all those things, and it makes her happy because she has a sense of self-worth of having ownership of a phone. But she's in no direct harm, but she has that phone. This is kind of the same idea with Snap Kids. Our children aren't in any harm. They have the application. Heck, they can go tell their friends that they have Snapchat, but you know they're in no direct harm because they cannot send or receive snaps. So if you have any children out there that are below the age of 13, you might want to venture down this route right here, letting them have Snap Kids. The next social media application that we're going to take a look at is Instagram. And I know a lot of adults like Instagram. Show of hands, does anyone here have Instagram? All right, see quite a few people putting their hands up. Simply, Instagram is a photo sharing app with filters. Okay? My wife has Instagram and she's an awful picture taker. But when she throws the filters on there, it looks amazing. People love to express themselves through taking pictures and putting these filters on. It's a nice way to express oneself. It also has Facebook-like qualities. What I mean by that is that you can like photos and you can post comments on people's photos, okay? So it has those Facebook-like qualities. To give you some statistics on Instagram, we see about 200 million monthly active users, so 200 million people are using this social media application a month. Some vocabulary I'd like to add in there is this one, selfie. And it's pretty famous, everyone's heard of the term selfie, right? This is simply, if you've ever heard of this, what does this even mean? This is when someone takes a picture of someone, of themselves. So kind of like with the arms hanging out, you see. And a lot of people do this on Instagram, a lot of children do. So let's go ahead and take a look at how we create an account. And we're going to skip all the whole part with where we go into the phone and download it. We're going to skip right to how you set up the account. And right here, when you open the account, we can either register through Facebook or register through our email. Now, I want to mention now that with Instagram, you can register through Facebook. And when you do that, everything is connected, meaning what you do on Facebook may appear on Instagram and vice versa. If you connect through Facebook, they are now intertwined in with one another. The other way, though, we can register through is email. And once we click on the register through email, We're here to enter in 3 criteria: our email, our username, and a password. Okay? Once we do that, we now have to figure out, we have the application, we've set it up, but where do we go to find friends on here? And simply we'd be at this screen right here, and we click on this green button, Find to Follow People. And when we do that, we have this screen right here, and we have 3 different ways we can find people to follow. One is through our Facebook friends, because I said that Facebook was intertwined with Instagram. If you register, you now, if you went that route, you can find your friends through Facebook, tap on them, and ask them to follow you through Instagram. The other way, because Instagram is a phone-based application in this instance, you can go through your contacts on your phone, and you can find your people or your friends to follow you that way. Lastly, we have Instagram Suggested. And what this is right here is the latest and greatest, the most liked photos on Instagram. People that get the most votes, most likes, things like that, the most popular photos. You see a lot of scenery photos on there. So for example, maybe you'd see the skyline of Pittsburgh. A lot of people like to take pictures of that with some neat filter, somewhere in the jungle where it's very colorful, things like that. This is where you would find those type of photos and to follow those people through Instagram Suggested. So now that we've found out the 3 different ways to follow people, let's take a look and dig a little deeper into the application itself. So right here is the beginning home screen of someone's Instagram account. Now it's blank, and we're going to see what it looks like filled out in a moment. But I want to bring emphasis down here to this little button right here. When we click on that, we can edit our profile. And you can see right here, these are different pieces of information that are asked of us. And I really want to bring emphasis down here to our posts being private. We know as adults that not everyone needs to know what we're putting up there, right? Children sometimes don't, though. They want to share everything with everyone and let everyone know what they're up to. Perhaps you want to have your child, if they have Instagram, to make sure that their posts are private so not everyone in the Instagram world can see what they're up to online. I want to go ahead and talk about this little bar right here that you will always see at the bottom of Instagram when you're using it on the phone. We're going to take a look at what these different icons mean. And the first one we have here is our home screen. And we're going to dig in a little deeper so you can zoom. We're going to zoom in so you can see what those pictures look like. But this is our home page, just similar to Facebook, if we're all familiar with that. Our home page there, and see what the feed is going on. The next one we have is our Explore button. We can explore different photos and see what's out there on Instagram. The next button we have here is our Camera button. This is where we physically push the button to take the photo to post onto Instagram. The next one is Following and News. Now here is where you can find out any photos that someone has commented on or liked right here. We now have a list. Lastly is our Profile. So to give you a better idea, this is our home screen right here. And just like I said, it has Facebook-like qualities. You can see the likes. You can see this person commenting right here. And we'll get here in a bit about this little thing right here we like to call people like to call it a pound sign, but if you ask a child, it's actually a hashtag. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Down here is the Explore. You can see the different photos you can find here through Instagram. Up here is the Camera button, so obviously they're going to take a picture of some eyeglasses there and some sunglasses. Down here is the Following and News, and this is where you can find all the people that like your photos, and then when you click up here, you can find the news feed of who's following who and different things that are happening on Instagram. And lastly, here's the Profile page, and this is what it looks like when it's up and people have taken pictures. So you can see this is where someone's photo would go for their profile. These are pictures that they have taken, and a little description about oneself. Let's go ahead and take a look at how we manage the settings through Instagram. And again, I said that you can find the settings generally by looking for the gear on any social media. Well, just like this, you see the gear, we go ahead and touch it. And once we do that, we're redirected to this screen right here. We can find, again, people to follow. We've talked about that through the 3 different ways. We can find all the posts that we've liked through the history. We can find every post that we've ever liked. Scrolling down on the Manage Settings button, I want to bring attention to this right here. Log out. When we think about log out in terms of cyberbullying, a lot of children lend phones to one another, and they don't log out of their applications. And if I was a student and another student didn't like me and said, hey, can I borrow your phone? And I didn't think anything of it, I may give it to him. And if I have it logged out of Instagram, he can get onto my Instagram account and take pictures and put them up there and make it pretend it's me and try to embarrass me. So I urge your children, or urge you to tell your children, have them log out once they're done off of any social media they're on. You don't want someone else going on and pretending to be them and embarrass them. The next social media that we're going to take a look at is the biggest one here, Facebook. And I'm sure we're all familiar with it. And simply I like to say that Facebook is the king of all social media. It really is. I want to point out, though, that it still is very big, but kids don't find it to be their most favorite social media. Does anyone want to take a guess why that is? I'll tell you. Because you, as parents, have it. It's not cool anymore. If mom and dad have it, why would I want something that mom and dad has, right? And we're seeing that kids move to something different, okay? But it still is the biggest social media application out there. Give you some statistics on it. We see about 1.23 billion active users as of December, and 757 million daily users are on Facebook. So you can see quite a bit of people use this application. Give you some vocabulary. I like to you ever hear the term friend me? If someone says, hey, friend me on Facebook, simply that means adding someone to your friends list so they can follow you through Facebook. Another big word that we see associated with Facebook, wall. You hear someone say, someone posted something on my wall, right? This is simply a part on the Facebook page that you can post or put whatever you want on there. If you think of a blank canvas and you can have whatever you want on there, they call it a wall. To give you an idea of what Facebook looks like, and this is the computer version. Again, you can use it on your phone or the computer, but for sake, this is the computer version of Facebook. Here's an account, and you can see I don't have my photo up here, but I have a background photo and some of the friends and people I may know. And for some reason, it's all Clark Kent. I don't know why, but I may know Superman. Moving on, I want to show you some of the posts and comments that I made on my Facebook account. And the first one here is, I put down that opening day is here, but you can see that where I'm at, where I'm posting. If we don't go in our settings and turn this off, we're going to know where we're always posting at. We as adults know that not everyone needs to know where we're at when we're posting. So you may want to have your children turn that off to make sure that every time they put something up there, that it's not showing where their location is. Another thing I want to stress is that Facebook asks you a lot of questions when you open up an account. And one of the questions they asked me was, did you buy a house? Yes, I did. It's a joke, though. We all know that that's the White House, right? But it makes a good point that I'm trying to stress. Nothing stopped me from putting that picture up online and saying I lived at the White House. Whereas nothing's stopping a child predator of posting a picture of someone that's younger and contacting your children. We really need to be careful with who we're contacting online. I stress to students when I go into schools and talk that I always ask them to raise their hands. How many of you have 100 friends on Facebook? How many of you have 200, 300? And I've gone as high as over 1,000 in an elementary school. Friends is a very loose term on social media. When we think of friends growing up, it's someone that's in your chemistry class or someone that's on your ball team, right? It's not like that anymore. Your friend could be someone that you've never physically met in your entire life, and they could live in Colorado. But do we really know who these people are? And children like to add more and more friends and followers because it's a social status. Think of it as if you only have 100 friends, you're driving a Chevy. But if you have 500 friends, you're in a Cadillac, right? It's a social status. The more number of friends you have, the cooler you are. But with that comes a danger. Do you know every single person on your friends list? Who can see all of your personal information online? So it's really important to stress that. Don't just click and have friends for the sake of saying, I have 500. Make sure you really know who they are. So over here, we're going to take a look at how we navigate the app again. And here's where some personal information here about me on here is. And as parents, we understand again that not everyone needs to know every single bit of information about us. But children sometimes don't get that. as parents, I just want you to look at this. What do you see on this screen that may be alarming that someone can see that you know not everyone needs to know about?
Good address.
My address. I have my address up here. We know that not everyone needs to know where we live, but Facebook asks that. Children may not think that's a problem, but it really is. We know that not everyone needs to know where we live. We think about this in terms of child predators. We're now spot on the dot geographically locating where we live. So we need to have that conversation with our children. What information are you posting up online? We really need to make sure that they limit and have an understanding that not everyone needs to know everything about us. Some other things to point out, you have the birth year, so then we know how old you are. My Skype name, my email, things like this, my family's names. So these are some pieces of personal information that not everyone needs to know. And if these are alarming, which I'm sure everyone finds it to be, we need to go ahead and look at the security settings of where we can make this more secure. And simply, again, we would click on this gear. And when we do, we are redirected to this screen right here. And the first thing I want to talk about is our privacy settings. And with here, we can figure out who can see my stuff. This is where we can change where people can see our future posts, and we have to review the photos that we're tagged in. And everyone understands what I say when I mean tagged, right? Does everyone understand that? Okay, good. This now makes it harder for people, or it limits the people who can see our things on Facebook. Again, can everyone in Facebook land see what we're having up there? Or are we now limiting the number of people? Who can contact me? So who can send me friend requests? When we think about this in terms of child predators, who is contacting us? We don't know everyone on Facebook, and perhaps it could be someone that has an ulterior motive. If we go through here, now we can limit if people can even send us those requests. They can't even contact our children. But even more importantly, even more secure is who can look me up? Who can even look me up to send out a friend request? I mentioned prior my wife, and she's a teacher. And because she does have social media, hers is very locked down. And I like to think of this right here as when you think of the president, you ever heard of the term that you don't call him, he'll call you, right? Well, my wife with social media, you don't friend her, she'll friend you, because you can't find her. You can't find her on social media. She doesn't exist if you go looking for her. And this is important to relate to our children. Not everyone needs to go looking for us. Maybe you want to go online with your child and say, hey, let's look them up. You can contact them and go, how do you know them? Oh, they're in my class. Okay, then we can follow them. But those people can't seek out your child online and even ask them to follow you on Facebook. So that might be an avenue you might want to go down. The next thing I want to talk about is timeline and tagging right here. When we go ahead and zoom in and look, we can look at here at who can add things to my timeline. And are we familiar with what I mean when I say the word timeline in Facebook? We okay with that? We understand? Okay, good. Who can add things to it? Everything here I'm going to talk about, managing, tagging, and things like that, we need to think about in terms of child predators. Or not child predators, I'm sorry, cyberbullying. If someone doesn't like me in my school and wanted to tag me in an embarrassing photo that I didn't want up there and I don't have to review it first, it can go right up on the screen. Everyone can see it, and because Facebook and social media is 24/7, everyone can see it like that. Unlike regular bullying, the people that were present were the only ones that can see what was going on. With cyberbullying, everyone can see it. So it's really important that we can go through here and see who can add things to our timeline, who can see things on our timeline, so who can even see what we have up there, and managing tagging and things like that. So think about this in terms of cyberbullying. We really need to limit who can view what and who can put things online, on our wall. The last thing I want to talk about here is our blocking section. And let's say our children are being cyberbullied, and they're getting on our child's pages and putting nasty things. Well, here we have the ability under restricted list to restrict them from putting things up there, okay? But if it gets really bad, we can just outright block them so they can't even get onto the page. So if it gets that bad and you don't even want them being on your child's account or on their wall or on their page, we can block them so they can't even get on there to see what's going on. Now the next social media we're going to take a look at is Twitter. And Twitter's another popular social media, and simply Twitter, for those of you who don't know what it is, it's people sending short messages in under 140 characters. I think this is probably one of the most popular social medias out there today. It seems like when I turn on the TV and you see some news outlet or whatever it is, someone says, follow us on Twitter, let us know what you think, hashtag this, right? Tweet that. It's one of the most popularly used by TV shows, you name it, and it really is growing in numbers. To give you some statistics on Twitter, we see that there's about 645.7 million accounts. And about 135,000 new accounts are created every day. So you can see that this is growing, growing, and growing, and growing. Some vocabulary, and I think that Twitter has the most buzzwords or lingo with the social media applications. We need to learn what some of these are. And simply, when someone says they're putting out a tweet, that means they're putting out a message on Twitter. Tweet means putting out a message. The next one is a big one that we see among adults, and they go, I have no idea what they're talking about. And that's a hashtag. It's this little thing right here. I'm sure if I were to ask you as adults what that symbol is, you would tell me it's the pound sign on a phone, right? But children don't recognize it as that anymore. It's now what they consider a hashtag. And what that's used for is to create a topic online. We're going to see in a moment an example of that. But anyone that puts that hashtag in a series of words strung together in a tweet, it will create a link. And when you click on that, it now shows everyone that's ever used that hashtag and that wording for the hashtag. And it creates this topic, and we're going to see here in a moment an example of one. Twitter is a phone and computer-based application, but I used the computer-based application for the examples here. Here's just the home page of Twitter. And the first thing I want to show you is my tweet right here that I wrote out, beat the Cubs, and the example hashtag let's go Bucks. Okay? So with this example of hashtag let's go Bucks, if you were to click on this, you would see people talking about the Pirates using that hashtag. It creates that global conversation of anyone using that, and they're probably talking about the Pirates there in that instance. One of the things that Twitter does is that when you click on the tweet here, it can show you your geographic location. Again, we've talked about geotagging in different forms of social media. Twitter does it as well. As adults, we understand that not everyone needs to know where we're tweeting at, right? So we may want to turn this off. And now we're going to go ahead and take a look at where we go to go into our settings. And again, we click on the gear. And when we do, we're redirected to where we can manage our settings. The first thing I want to talk about here is photo tagging. With Twitter, you can put up photos and you can tag people. Again, we think about this in terms of cyberbullying. Can anyone tag us in photos? Or are we going to limit it to people that we only follow? Or are we going to let no one tag us in photos? So we think about it again. If someone wants to embarrass us and we don't have the correct security setting on there, if anyone can tag us, and they do, and they're trying to embarrass us, it goes up, and we have no control over it. But if we go into here to our settings, and we limit the people who can do that, we're now being safer. The next thing I want to talk about is making our tweets private, making our messages private. Again, not everyone in Twitter universe needs to know what we're putting up there. If we make them private, not everyone will be able to see our tweets. I showed you previously about the geotagging in all the tweets, and right here we can turn it off, or it no longer can have that location added to our tweets. But let's say we didn't know that this feature existed, and we've already made 100 tweets on our page, okay? Well, if we click on this red arrow right here, we can go back, and when we click on it, it'll go back to every tweet that you've ever sent out, and it'll delete all the geographic location or the geotagging off every tweet. It'll take about a half hour, but once again, it'll delete after a while. Everything will be off of there. It keeps yourself safe. So that's Twitter. The next two that we're going to talk about are some of the more underground social medias that not everyone understands or has heard about. But the first one we're going to take a look at here is Tumblr. How many of you have heard of Tumblr? Anyone? Okay. So you've heard of Tumblr. Okay. Simply, what is Tumblr? It's a customizable blogging webpage. We're going to find out in a moment what a blog is. Children love to use Tumblr because it is the most customizable social media that is out there. You can change whatever you want to on it, the backgrounds, the font, anything. You can post links to places that you like to go to, quotes, pictures, little short videos, you name it. Think of it like an online journal. Anything that you have and you find neat, it's your own little personal online journal, all the things you like. People can visit it and see what you post. Some statistics on Tumblr. There's about 194.6 million Tumblr blogs. And some vocabulary, simply a blog. And I took this out of the dictionary, so this should give you an idea of how progressive and how much the dictionary words are changing and how mainstream this is. Blog is literally in the dictionary. And what it is a personal website on which an individual can record opinions, links to other sites, and they do it on a regular basis. So again, kind of like an online journal. To give you an idea of what Tumblr looks like, this is a blank Tumblr page, okay? When you see someone's Tumblr page, though, everything will look different. This blue will no longer be blue. It'll be a picture or a different color. This is the profile picture for the account, and usually you'll see someone's face. The text can be different. Again, it is one of the most customizable social media applications that are out there. One of the things that Tumblr does is that it asks you random questions throughout you having the social media app. And one of the things it asked me was, what is my favorite inanimate object? And I answered my couch. Now, that's harmless enough, but if we don't have the correct security settings on, that could be way worse. Children may cyberbully one another and put terrible things up there. And we've seen it happen time in and time out again. Such as, you know no one likes you here at this school. Have you ever considered transferring? Things like this. And people can post anonymously. Remember how I said cyberbullying is different? We were able, when regular bullying, to identify who the person was. With this, we can do it anonymously, and now we have no idea who said those terrible things to our child, and now it's posted online. Of course, we as parents understand that that's alarming. So let's go ahead and take a look in the security settings and how we can fix that. And again, you click on the wheel right here. And when we do that, we're redirected here to manage our settings. And I want to talk about a few things here, specifically with the replies. Think of replies much like Facebook. People can reply to the things that you post online. And we think about it in terms of cyberbullying, maybe someone wants to reply something nasty so it appears on our page. But we can limit the people who add replies on our page. We're going to allow just people that we follow to add replies, or we can make it a little more customizable that people have to follow us for 2 or more weeks before they can put replies on. I like to call this the high school relationship setting right here. Think of it, we all know how school works, high school works, on one day, off the other, relationships, right? So, sorry, your name? Rob. I'm going to use this example. Rob and I are friends. And we just got Tumblr and we're friends and we had it for 1 week. I kicked Rob in the shin, now he hates me, and he wants to get onto my Tumblr account to post something nasty so everyone can see it to embarrass me. But if I have this setting on, guess what? Rob can't put anything up because we've only been friends on Tumblr for a week. So we're now limiting who can post things on our page. More importantly, I talked about Tumblr asking you questions. And, asking you questions. And here, we cannot let anyone ask us questions. We turn it off, no one can even ask us questions, okay? Also, if we turn this off, no one can ask now anonymously. No one can ask anonymous questions, okay? I will say this though, that doesn't mean you're 100% safe if you just turn off the ask anonymously. Children sometimes do create fake accounts, and it will say who the person is, but it's not really who it is online, okay? So you're not 100% safe with that. Remember that. The last social media application is one of the biggest ones that we're seeing. When I go into schools and I talk to principals and say, tell me what you're seeing in your school. What social media apps are you seeing be abused? They keep on mentioning this one right here. It's this darn, I don't know what it's called, it's Ask FM. A lot of people haven't heard of what this is. This is a phone and a computer-based application. This is the icon for it. Simply what Ask FM is a question and answer based application. Very basic. You create a profile, you ask questions, people can answer it. We've talked about cyberbullying, and you can see how this could go awry real quick. To give you some ideas on the statistics of Ask FM, we see about 20 million visitors per day. Okay? There's not really any vocabulary buzzwords associated with this one, so I really don't have much to share on that side of things. This is a computer-based version of Ask FM. And you can see some of the things on here is they ask me questions. And one of the questions they ask me is, what advice would you give children today? And below are the responses to the questions. And remember, I said it can be used in cyberbullying. And right here, we have a version, a rather light version of what cyberbullying can happen here. Everyone hates you in school because you smell. Are you ever going to take a shower? And my reply is, I do. Who is this, right? We can see how bad this can get. Yes, ma'am?
My question is, there's no post to know where that question came from. There's no, you don't know who asked you that question. It doesn't list it.
We are going to go in here in a moment and see where you can turn that off.
But this is the standard. Like, if a child just makes it, this is what they see. So they don't ever see who the question comes from.
Right. Any social media is like a blank wall. They don't know what level of security you want. So think of it when you get the internet and you open it up on your computer. It's pretty much wide open, right? You can go anywhere you want. It's up to you to set the level of security on it. So that's the easiest way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm just surprised that it's so anonymous. I'm surprised that
Yeah.
it doesn't include who's asking you that question.
It really is an issue. It really,
But
really
the
is.
person who's asking you that question has to know your profile name to be able to get to your page to ask you the question, right?
Well, if you don't have your security settings on there correctly, anyone can log on and see your page, remember? Remember how we talked about Facebook? If anyone can look me up or get on. So if we don't have any settings on, I can assure you that I go into schools again and talk to children who have their security settings put on. Not a lot of hands, honestly, go up. And that should be alarming to adults out there in the crowd. Really need to make sure that our children are getting on these social media apps, not just for fun, that's great, but with these apps come a great responsibility. Making sure that they're staying safe and putting on the correct settings so that no one can contact them or any things like this can happen. But there again, there's an example of what we see with cyberbullying, and let's go ahead and take a look at where we click. Right here, we turn on the settings, and when we click that button right there, we're redirected here. And I'm going to talk about just simply with the privacy settings for questions. Can anyone ask anonymously, or can no one ask anonymously? We can turn that on and off, and if we turn it off, people now can't ask anonymous questions. So you can see it being an issue there. You really can. Just to wrap up on some of the things I wanted to talk about, and so you have an understanding, please know your child's password. We talked about this at the beginning with passwords being so much of an important and such a big deal. Please know what your child's passwords are. Create some sort of social contract with your child, whatever you're comfortable with, so that you know what their passwords are, and if anything were to ever happen to them, you can easily get into their accounts. Also, continue to educate yourselves. By the time I'm done doing this presentation, a new social media application may have emerged. This is a growing industry. And your children are your best resource at teaching you. Ask them questions. Hey, what's this? How do you do this? They can show you, and you can continue to educate yourself because it's constantly evolving and constantly changing. I also want to emphasize, please don't think that, no, my child would never do this. Children will be children. And I can tell you when I go into schools, it doesn't matter if it's a straight A student or one that's not, anyone is capable of this with the stories that teachers tell me and administrators. So please don't think, not my child. Lastly, when I talked about child predators, if you ever have any instances that you need to contact our office, please don't hesitate. You can contact our child predator hotline at 1-800-385-1044. And of course, we also have a text messaging feature. You can text your tips to PA Kids plus your tip to 847-411. Now, I really want to thank you guys for coming out, and I hope you learned some things. Again, are you going to be a whiz? No. But the idea is that you had some good visuals to see what these social media applications look like. You know how they can be abused now. And most importantly, I think that you know where the settings are, and you know why they're important to enable them on your child's passwords. I'll be here to answer any questions you may have here at the end. I'll be happy to stay as long as I can. Again, I want to thank Representative Marshall and his staff for inviting me out here. My name is Philip Little, and I'm the Education and Outreach Specialist with the Pennsylvania Office of Attorney General. And on behalf of the office and our Attorney General, Kathleen Kane, thank you so much.
Thank you, Phil.
Sure.
Really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
I can speak as a dad that my daughter's safety is my top priority, and really in my heart I believe that every child's safety is my top priority. And whether it's safety at home, safety in school, or on the streets, or on the internet, I think it should be everyone's top priority. I learned quite a lot today, and I hope that you did too. Again, I want to thank all of you that came out on this rainy evening to get this information, and again thank Lincoln Park Performing Arts and also Phil for his expertise in this. And I hope you take time and talk privately if you need to with Phil to get more information, or if need be, visit their website or my website, which is repmarshall.com. Thank you again, and please stick around and ask questions. Thanks.